Today, we need to talk about something alarming happening right now in grocery stores around the globe. Imagine walking into your favorite supermarket only to find empty shelves where your go-to items used to be. From snacks and pantry staples to everyday essentials, these 10 grocery items are disappearing fast. And the reasons behind it might just send shivers down your spine. Global supply chain disruptions, rising costs, and unforeseen shortages are silently reshaping the way we shop. And the impact may hit sooner than you think. Are your favorite treats or must-have products next on the list? Stick around as we uncover these vanishing items and explain why you should act before it's too late. You won't want to miss this crucial information. It could change how you prepare for your next grocery run. Before we jump into this eye-opening list, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Join our growing community and stay ahead of the curve with the latest updates. Don't wait until it's too late. A single click could prepare you for what's coming. Let's get started while we still can. 1. Coffee. Coffee, the beloved beverage that fuels millions of mornings, is becoming increasingly difficult to find and afford. It's no longer just a comforting daily ritual for many. It's starting to feel like a luxury item. As a coffee lover, I've become acutely aware of these changes, and they've left me uneasy about what the future holds for my favorite drink. The causes behind this shift are impossible to ignore. Climate change is wreaking havoc on coffee production in countries like Brazil and Colombia, both of which are leading coffee exporters. Droughts and unpredictable flooding have decimated coffee crops, reducing supply and driving prices up. These natural disasters aren't just one-off events either. They're becoming more common, making it harder for farmers to recover and adapt. On top of that, global supply chain disruptions have further complicated the delivery of coffee to consumers like me. Increased transportation costs, combined with escalating tariffs, mean higher prices at my local grocery store and coffee shop. The impact is something I feel every time I shop. Coffee, once an affordable staple in my pantry, has begun to edge closer to a luxury item. I'm starting to see how tough this is becoming for families who have to make painful choices to fit their budgets, deciding whether coffee is a necessity they can still justify, or if it's an indulgence they must cut out. Even for me, enjoying quality coffee has become a financial decision that requires extra thought. It's disheartening to think how something so integral to my daily routine could eventually slip out of reach. This issue doesn't just affect individuals. It ripples through entire communities. Small coffee shops may struggle to source affordable beans, and that could impact how they operate or whether they survive. Farmers in coffee-producing nations who already face economic uncertainties are being hit the hardest. I can't help but wonder what can be done to protect both the environment and the livelihoods of those who depend on coffee production. For now, I'm keeping a closer eye on my coffee habits and searching for ways to support sustainable sources. It's clear that the world's relationship with coffee is at a crucial tipping point. 2. Rice. Rice is quickly disappearing from grocery store shelves, and as a concerned shopper, I've started noticing the alarming trend. This critical staple, which so many families, including my own, depend on for our daily meals, is becoming increasingly scarce while prices skyrocket. The reasons behind this issue are complex, but worth understanding. The primary contributor to this shortage is India's decision to impose export bans on rice. Given that India supplies over 40% of the world's rice, this move has sent shockwaves through global markets. I understand why some governments may prioritize domestic needs, but the ripple effect has been significant. Countries that depend on this major exporter are now scrambling to secure their supplies, leading to heightened competition and inflated prices. It's frustrating to think these geopolitical and economic decisions directly affect what I can and can't afford to add to my pantry. Adding to the problem are shipping challenges that have plagued the global economy. Rising transportation costs, container shortages, and ongoing geopolitical tensions have only exacerbated the situation. Even when rice is available, it's not as accessible or affordable as it used to be. The days of grabbing a 20-pound bag of rice at a reasonable price feel like a distant memory. Now, I find myself purchasing smaller bags at higher costs, which doesn't stretch as far when feeding a family. The impact of this shortage is truly concerning at a household level. Over the past year, rice prices have surged by more than 20%, which has forced me, and countless others, to reconsider our meal planning and budgets. For many families, particularly those who rely on rice as an affordable and nutritious staple, the current cost is simply unbearable. It's disheartening to see an item that once symbolized stability and sustenance become a source of stress when planning meals. Rice scarcity highlights how interconnected and fragile our world really is. A supply chain issue halfway across the globe can end up impacting something as fundamental as a bowl of rice on my dinner table. As the situation unfolds, I can only hope for solutions that stabilize rice availability and bring back this essential grain to our shopping carts at a price everyone can afford. Olive oil. One of the most unexpected changes I've noticed recently is how olive oil, something I've always considered a pantry essential, has started to feel like a luxury. Across the board, prices have surged by 50%, and it's becoming harder and harder to justify the expense for such a staple product. I've always used olive oil for cooking, baking, or even drizzling over salads. It's versatile, healthy, and has a flavor that elevates almost any dish. But now, with prices soaring, I'm finding myself reaching for that bottle less frequently, trying to make it last longer than usual. The reasons behind the surge in prices are sobering and highlight the vulnerabilities in our global food supply. Spain and Italy, which produce over 65% of the world's olive oil, have faced devastating droughts in recent years. These droughts have lowered harvest yields dramatically, with Spain alone seeing a 60% drop in production in 2024. Such a stark decrease has created a ripple effect, limiting supply and sending prices sky high. While we often take certain groceries for granted, extreme weather events like these remind us just how dependent we are on consistent growing conditions for everyday products. For many families, the rising cost of olive oil has forced a difficult choice. Cheaper, less healthy cooking oils are becoming the go-to replacement as budgets tighten, even though they lack the rich benefits olive oil offers. Olive oil is packed with heart-healthy fats and antioxidants, so losing it from daily meals feels like a loss not only for the wallet, but for overall well-being. Its newfound status as a luxury item underscores just how much our relationship with food is tied to affordability. It's strange to think that something as simple as olive oil is slipping away from the average shopping cart. I can't help but wonder if this is just the beginning, with other cherished groceries soon becoming out of reach. For now, I'll be savoring what's left of my dwindling bottle, hoping for better harvests ahead. 4. Potato chips. One of the most surprising and disheartening shortages I've noticed is potato chips. Whether you're someone who enjoys them as a guilty pleasure or a comforting snack after a long day, the impact of this shortage hits home in more ways than one. Shrinkflation has taken hold of this beloved grocery item, and if you've picked up a bag recently, you've likely experienced the frustration of less product for the same price. This subtle yet noticeable change has made me question how something as simple as potato chips could become part of a growing grocery crisis. The reasons behind this issue are quite alarming. A poor potato harvest in Idaho, responsible for about 30% of the U.S. potato production, has significantly driven this shortage. Weather conditions and other agricultural challenges have limited the available supply of potatoes, which is the core ingredient for most chips. Beyond that, the rising costs of transportation and packaging are compounding the issue. Companies that produce potato chips are not only facing limited resources, but also elevated expenses to bring their product to market. Inevitably, these factors result in smaller bags or higher prices for what used to be an affordable, staple snack. On a larger scale, this isn't just about losing out on an occasional indulgence. Potato chips have always been one of those little joys that many of us relied on, especially during tough times. They are easy to share, comforting as a treat, and often considered a simple pleasure that doesn't require much thought or planning. Now, however, even that comfort feels less accessible, and it serves as a noticeable reminder of how larger economic and environmental pressures are affecting something as simple as our snacks. It's frustrating, but it also underscores the importance of understanding the behind-the-scenes factors that influence our daily lives. While I may not be giving up potato chips forever, it's clear that shortages like this are reshaping how I, and many others, think about convenience and comfort foods in today's challenging times. 5. Imported spices. One of the most disheartening trends I've noticed lately is the growing scarcity and rising cost of imported spices. Essential staples like cinnamon, nutmeg, and black pepper are becoming harder to find on store shelves, and when they're available, they come with a hefty price tag. For someone who loves to experiment with flavors in the kitchen, this has been particularly frustrating. These spices, many of which are integral to crafting both authentic global dishes and everyday meals, are no longer as accessible as they once were. The problem lies in a number of complex factors, many of which are out of our immediate control. Increased tariffs make importing goods more expensive, while skyrocketing transportation costs and persistent port delays continue to hamper the steady flow of products we often take for granted. It's an unfortunate reality that has been exacerbated by global supply chain issues over the last few years. All these hurdles add up, and the result is a noticeable spike in prices, over 40% in some cases. But this issue isn't just about price or availability. For many immigrant communities, these spices aren't just ingredients, they represent a deep cultural connection. Recipes passed down through generations rely heavily on specific spices to achieve their authentic tastes. With these staples becoming less accessible, recreating traditional dishes feels like a significant challenge, and for some, like losing a piece of home. Even for those of us who just enjoy variety in our meals, the loss is noticeable. Without these spices, cooking feels less vibrant and flavorful. If this trend continues, we may all need to adapt. Some might experiment with using local substitutes for imported spices, while others may start growing herbs and spices at home where climates allow. However, there's no denying that the absence of these globally sourced ingredients signifies a loss, not just to our grocery carts, but also to the rich, interconnected culinary culture we've benefited from for so long. It's a reminder of just how fragile global trade and food systems can be, and how deeply it can affect something as fundamental as what we eat. 6. Cocoa. The skyrocketing price of cocoa has been one of the most noticeable trends impacting our grocery shopping habits. Over the past year, cocoa prices have surged by more than 130%, and if you're a chocolate lover like me, you've probably already felt the sting in your wallet. Whether it's your favorite chocolate bar, baking cocoa, or even that comforting jar of chocolate spread, the ripple effects of this situation are undeniable. The root cause lies in the supply chain disruptions happening in Ghana and the Ivory Coast, regions that produce about 60% of the global cocoa supply. Farmers in these countries have been battling severe weather patterns, including prolonged droughts and unpredictable rains, making cocoa farming increasingly challenging. Adding to this is the outbreak of agricultural diseases that are damaging cocoa crops, with supply already being fragile. Meeting the escalating global demand for cocoa products has become nearly impossible. For us as consumers, this means that many chocolate-based items are slowly edging into the luxury category. I've noticed smaller chocolate bars with higher price tags, and large-scale brands are shrinking their products while keeping prices steady, something often referred to as shrinkflation. Even worse, smaller retailers and specialty chocolate shops are having to make a tough decision to reduce their cocoa imports entirely, because they simply can't keep up with the high costs. This trend doesn't just affect indulgences like candy or desserts, it's also trickling into everyday staples. For instance, cocoa powder for baking, or products like breakfast cereals that include cocoa are seeing rising costs too. With these price hikes, I've started reconsidering my purchases and treating chocolate more like an occasional indulgence than a pantry staple. It's a bittersweet reality that I know many of us are grappling with. Ultimately, cocoa's instability in the market isn't just a story about food, it's a reminder of how deeply global agriculture ties into our daily lives. From weather patterns to international trade, the luxury of enjoying chocolate is now more connected to broader issues than many of us previously realized. 7. Frozen fish. Frozen fish has become increasingly scarce in recent years, and I can't help but notice how this impacts both my wallet and my dinner table. One of the biggest reasons behind this issue is the combination of U.S. tariffs and anti-dumping taxes on imported seafood. These policies have made it much harder to find affordable options on the shelves. Additionally, climate change has led to smaller seafood catches within the United States itself, further limiting the supply of this once readily available protein source. It's a double-edged sword that directly affects families trying to put nutritious meals on the table. I remember when frozen shrimp, for example, was a staple in my household. It was not only convenient, but also a relatively cost-effective way to prepare a healthy dinner. However, today's prices tell a different story. Shrimp that used to cost $7.99 per pound now costs $12.00 or more. That significant price jump makes me pause and reconsider my choices while shopping. And it's not just shrimp. Other types of frozen fish are becoming increasingly expensive as well. It's frustrating to see such a versatile and nutritious food source becoming out of reach for many families. Because of these rising costs, I've noticed that many people are turning to cheaper protein substitutes like chicken, eggs, and beans. While these are all good alternatives, I miss having access to the variety of meals I used to be able to make with frozen fish. For families who rely heavily on affordability, having fewer options can feel limiting and discouraging. It's also concerning to think about the long-term effects of these changes on health, as seafood contains essential omega-3 fatty acids that aren't as abundant in other proteins. I don't think the average grocery shopper fully realizes how much global trade policies and environmental issues can influence what's available on the shelves. It has really opened my eyes to how interconnected we all are and how external factors like rising tariffs or warming oceans can make such a big impact on everyday life. Allowing frozen fish to disappear from our shopping carts isn't just about one less affordable item. It's a ripple effect that affects nutrition, accessibility, and family budgets all at once. 8. Almonds. Almonds have long been a staple in my pantry, whether for snacking, baking, or blending into homemade almond milk. However, I've noticed that over the past couple of years, almonds have become increasingly expensive and harder to come by. It's no surprise, considering that almonds rely heavily on specific environmental conditions for growth, and those conditions are rapidly changing. The bulk of the world's almonds, about 80%, come from California, a region that has been struggling with persistent droughts and severe water shortages. Without consistent access to water, almond trees can't thrive, and the yield suffers. Climate change is another major player in this crisis. With rising temperatures and unpredictable weather patterns, the delicate blooming season of almond trees is being disrupted. For almonds to develop, they require a precise timeline of pollination, which depends on the activity of bees. Unfortunately, climate shifts and habitat loss have drastically reduced bee populations, making pollination more difficult. It's a chain reaction, where one issue fuels another, resulting in the dwindling supply of almonds available on the market. The impacts of this go beyond just price increases at the checkout line. Almonds, once considered a healthy and affordable snack, are now turning into a luxury item for many of us. Products derived from almonds, like almond milk, almond butter, and even almond flour, have also seen a noticeable price surge. For those of us who rely on these products, whether for dietary restrictions, plant-based lifestyles, or simply enjoying their taste, this situation has made grocery shopping more challenging. I find myself weighing my options every time I shop. Do I still buy almonds as a splurge, or start looking for alternatives? While I feel the pinch on a personal level, I can't help but think of the farmers in California and elsewhere who are dealing with the brunt of these challenges. The rising costs and reduced availability of almonds remind me of the complex connections between climate change, agriculture, and the choices we make as consumers. It's a sobering reality, but one that underscores the importance of sustainable farming practices and environmental conservation moving forward. 9. Tropical fruits. I've noticed that tropical fruits like mangoes, bananas, and pineapples are becoming harder to find in my local grocery store, and when I do find them, they're significantly more expensive than they used to be. It feels like these once common fruits are turning into a luxury item. The problem is rooted in several key factors that are beyond the control of consumers and are significantly impacting supply and affordability. One major cause is the erratic and unpredictable weather in the regions that produce these fruits. Countries like Thailand, Ecuador, and Costa Rica, which are known for being some of the largest exporters of tropical fruits, have been hit hard by shifting weather patterns and natural disasters. Floods, droughts, and even hurricanes have wreaked havoc on agricultural production in these areas. Crops are being destroyed and farmers are struggling to maintain their yields. When these disruptions occur, the ripple effect drastically reduces the global supply of fruits like mangoes or bananas. On top of that, the increased shipping costs and ongoing supply chain disruptions are adding another layer of complexity. Transporting these perishable goods requires a lot of care and often refrigeration, which makes their logistics more susceptible to rising fuel prices and shipping delays. It's no surprise that the combination of lower production and higher transportation costs leads to a spike in prices. For example, reports show that the price of bananas alone has risen by 30%, and that's a hefty increase for something that was once a staple in many households. The impact of these challenges is pretty clear. Tropical fruits that used to be an affordable and nutritious addition to our diets are slipping out of reach for many. I used to rely on these fruits for quick snacks or to add some freshness to my meals, but now I have to think twice before adding them to my cart. It's disheartening to see these fruits slowly disappearing from what I'd call affordable access. I can't help but wonder if in the future they'll become even more rare, or if we'll have to search for alternatives entirely. Canned foods are disappearing from shelves. When I walk down the canned foods aisle these days, I can't help but notice how much the selection has shrunk and the prices have climbed. Canned essentials like tuna, beans, and vegetables used to be affordable, reliable staples in my household, but now they are becoming increasingly difficult to find and expensive when they are available. This shift has been jarring, especially for someone who relies on these items for quick and convenient meals. The reasons behind this shortage are more complex than I initially thought. For one, the decline in tuna stocks due to overfishing and the effects of climate change is a serious issue. According to experts, tuna populations are being strained at alarming rates, making it harder for producers to meet demand. Furthermore, rising energy costs have made the process of canning and refrigeration significantly more expensive. Both of these factors contribute to the increased cost of canned goods on store shelves. What's even more concerning is how this impacts families like mine, who rely on canned foods as an affordable way to get through the week. Prices for these goods have risen by at least 20%, and for low-income households, this can cause added financial stress. It's not just about convenience. Canned foods often provide key nutrients at a price point that fits tight budgets. For many families, the rising costs and scarcity of these items leave them scrambling for alternatives, which aren't always as cost-effective. Personally, I've started stocking up on canned goods whenever I find them on sale, but even that is becoming harder to do. The once reliable supply of staples like canned beans or vegetables is no longer a given, and I find myself rethinking my meal planning and grocery shopping habits to compensate for these shortages. It's clear to me that the canned foods crisis is more than just an inconvenience. It's a pressing issue that reveals deeper challenges in our food production systems and broader economic landscape. Whether it's overfishing, climate change, or rising energy prices, these forces are reshaping the way we think about and access our food. It's undeniable that the disappearing grocery items are a wake-up call to the vulnerabilities in our food supply chains. From canned goods to fresh produce, these shortages remind us to be more mindful of our consumption and find creative ways to adapt to these changes. Whether it means exploring local markets, trying new recipes, or stocking up on alternatives, we all play a role in how we respond to these challenges. What items have you noticed missing from your shopping cart recently, and how have you been adjusting? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more updates and tips.